Mark, could you get me
Tea.
Yeah, cup of tea would be great.
Milk.
No, just weak and black. Yeah. Alrighty.
So first, just want to say thank you for taking the time to sit down and have a chat with me. Now, how's the tour going? How's your tour going? You're on tour at the moment?
Yeah. Well, I was in Gisborne last night, and that was cool. We got about 120 folks in Gisborne, which is, people said that's ridiculous. I hadn't been to Gisborne before. Boy, it took me 2 days to get there, actually, driving there. But, yeah, and we're in Auckland for all the first part of this week. So Epsom was full. Mount Albert was full. So the tour's going well. I'm in Wellington now, and I've got a couple of gigs in Wellington next week, and then we're off down to the bottom of the South Island to start again on our third tour. So that's be three tours in New Zealand.
What sort of age group are the people that are showing up to your shows?
So when I started, I would say to you, older, not many young, except that Dunedin, it was a bit younger. But now it would be dominated by, I think I'm right here, it would be dominated by younger people.
Younger people.
A lot of younger people. There's a lot of Maori come, and there's a lot of poorer people, but I get business people as well. So how the hell do I describe that? It's basically anybody who cares.
What would you like to see that 6% turn into?
Well, we were just talking about it before. If you look at the quality of our offering, but you've got to temper that by the fact that we didn't exist before Guy Fawkes Day, right? But if you just went purely on the quality of the offering, this party should be easily 20%. But you've got to come from zero, and we're up at 2 now and rising. I just feel it snowballing. So I'm happy with that, because people take time. I mean, I got in a cab in Auckland earlier this week. Guy had never heard of us. I was in a restaurant in Gisborne last night. The staff there had never heard of us. So we've still got that and that takes time.
Yeah, well, it's good that you bring that up, because my little brother, he's 19, studies marine engineering, and I sent him a message on Facebook. He's on Facebook 24/7. I sent him a message saying, "Hey mate, do you know who Gareth Morgan is?" He's like, "Nah, what's that? Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, he's a politician. Do you know anything about the election? Do you know when it is?" He's like, "Nah, what election?" And I got him to ask his mates on his course. Most of them are between 19 and 25, and then you've got some older students, and no one knew who you were. And these are millennials, and these are guys that would never think about voting, but they will vote if you give them a reason to. And they make up a huge percentage of our population.
Yeah, they do. Well, I actually did a bit of work on that. I took the younger voters plus the voters who are disenfranchised, I call them, so the poorer ones, and they add up to 57% of the voter base.
Is that right?
But they don't vote.
Yeah.
So there's the issue.
So how do you combat that issue?
So the product's great, and when I get people in front of me, there's no issue. They all basically think they've seen Jesus or something. It's so different. You know what I mean? It just blows them out.
Well, you are a breath of fresh air. As a politician, you are authentic. And that's nothing we've seen ever, I don't think, in the history of politics.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. But we've got to get exposure. So what I say to the folks who come, I say, this is going nowhere. No matter how enthusiastic you are, this is going nowhere unless you spread the word. And when I come to this town next time, you've put half a dozen people into this room, because it's in your hands, not my hands, And that's that viral thing, Dusty, and that's exactly actually how we built Trade Me. Trade Me was no advertising at all. It was all word of mouth. But I've only got this 10 months. Now it's 8 weeks to do it. But what I can say to you is that on the second road tour, the second time around New Zealand, we've asked this question in every gig, and the average is 85% of the attendees haven't seen us before. And then how they heard about us, their mates have told them to come.
And you've got Jeff. Jeff's your number 2. He's really good too, eh? You must be really proud of him.
Awesome. Yeah, Jeff is awesome. He's been with me a long time now, but he knows the policy every bit as well as I do, because that's his field as well. And and he, he's a bit younger than me, so he, appeals to a different set a bit. But I think in the end, it's the policies that appeal.
Yeah,
People
exactly.
do actually like policy, despite the fact, oh Christ, it's only 6% of their decision. We can expand that. And my sort of philosophy on that is that when the public's given full information, the public is actually incredibly astute. But, half of the time they're given half the information and they go off on a tangent and it's silly. But once you get them, I mean, you'll always have your nut bars on each side, but, the group of the public, if you give them the explanation, man, they're into it. And that's my experience just in my gigs. Totally it is. I'm feeling pretty up. Yeah.
That's good. And like you say, it's snowballing, and all it has to do is reach that tipping point, and then who knows?
Some of the voters, you see, they won't come out of the hedge until they think you're going to get over your 5%. So it feeds on itself,
Yeah.
It's catch-22. So we just keep plugging away. I'll tell you something. The head of the National Party and the head of the Labor Party have both said to me that what we're doing is fantastic. You know why? Because we're sort of making these radical policies respectable and conventional. They're up in the conversation, which means it's safe for them to start engaging on them, So the worst case scenario, we don't go anywhere. At least we've changed the conversation, which, that's fine. That's not a bad downside.
No, that's huge in itself. Like that's changing the face of politics. Like you are willing to hand over your policies to Labor if they get in.
Yeah, well, on that, my point on that's pretty simple. We need a really good contest between the two big protagonists, between National and Labor. You can't have a cakewalk, because not only will the government be even more arrogant, the main thing is that they will just serve the interests of their own constituency. They won't have to care about anybody else, which has been the sort of track record for a wee while now. So you need a contest. And okay, so Labor hasn't been in the ring. I mean, it's been nowhere near it. And okay, so Andrew stood down and Jacinda, who can communicate, is there. That's great. It's really good. But, like she's a John Key, But where's the policy, guys? They've had this byline of fresh approach. There's nothing fresh about it. It's just yesterday's boiled cabbage served up. They need policy. They've only got 7 weeks. So, I'm saying to them, just take ours. Take whatever you want. All the research papers behind it, the whole blooming lot. There's a lot of work here, years of it. Take it. And, or take some of it. And so you've got something to fight the fight with at that level. I think they're a bit flabbergasted, but, and then I said, it's a bit of a throwaway line, obviously, but I said, well, if they take all 15, I can pack the tent and get my life back, because we're here to change stuff, not for jobs. But then I said, chances of that? About 0.
Yeah. You're in it for the long haul, eh?
Well, we're in it to get the change we need so that all boats are rising here. So I'm trying to make it happen as fast as I can. I don't want to be here for too long, but certainly Top will be here. I mean, I'm now surrounded by all these young folks, who are either volunteers or candidates. Got 20-something candidates now, and they're all into it. We're going to announce some more next week, and so it's quite exciting. So it's obviously captured the imagination of, another group, which is great.
People can relate to you. That's why this authenticity that you have is so relatable. I don't want to take up too much of the time. I imagine everything's so hectic, but I do have one last question.
Yeah.
When was the last time you left New Zealand on an international flight?
I went to Hawaii about 6 weeks ago, I think.
Now, when you filled out the departure card at the airport, occupation, what did you write in there? Just out of
Retired.
Sorry?
Retired.
Yeah. That's awesome. So that basically tells me everything you're doing right now is just a labour of love, which is actually already obvious, but that's amazing.
Dusty, actually, I think of it as social work. I'm in this incredibly privileged position where I've done all this work my whole life in public policy, so I know this stuff. I know it pretty well, and Jeff knows it pretty well. We've got a lot of other people in there. And then I look at what's happening to New Zealand, and the politicians, the policy they're doing is not the same policy that they're being recommended to do by the policy advisory people, and that gap's getting bigger and bigger, and we can see the result. that not all boats are rising, and some people are actually, it's terrible what's happening. So I look at that, and I know this policy stuff, and I've got the money. I can run a political party.
Yeah.
And well, what else shall I do? Go and get on my bike and ride around the world again? And that was a conflict I had, and I said, I've got to do this. I don't want in 3, 4, 5 years to say I should have done that. I was in the most privileged position to be able to do it, and I just didn't do it. So I thought, I'm going to do it. And it's only till September, and if it works, it works. Yeah. And if it doesn't, well, at least I tried. So that's the driver.
That's the guts of it. That's awesome.
That's the guts of it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, Gareth. I really appreciate it, and you've got my vote 100,000%. So
cool, man.
Campaign.
That's awesome.